And we are officially in the 6th month of this restoration. Now, when I originally started this restoration, and of course 6 months ago, it seems like forever, it really isn't. 6 months ago I had a well-used, a well-worn FZR that now we're in about the last couple of days of assembly. We got a big chunk of it assembled yesterday. The front end's done, and that's the biggest part. We have one little detail and I want to finish it today. I got up really early before the chickens. I want to buff out the wheel, finish that, get that ready for assembly. Then I'm trying to plan out the next week, a week ahead, so that a week from now, be ready to ride the bike. Because one thing, it's been warming up every day, and today we're supposed to have a real spring day. It is one of the first days of spring, and we're supposed to have a spring day. That's something unique. So anyway, I'm going to get busy on that wheel. I'm going to go flip the battery charges, feed the birds, have my coffee. This is getting to be an exciting time for this project, and we are now in the 6th month. Right on schedule. I planned on 6 months. Looks like we're going to make it right on the budget and over deadline and underground and whatever. I've had such a good time doing this. I hope you've enjoyed sharing with me. Now, when I see the result of all the work we put into this and all of the patience we've had to have, all the good sequencing, and we have made it through some snowstorms and some bad weather and bad luck and good luck. A few medical issues thrown in for Karen and I both, and we've arrived at this day. So I'm envisioning once that back wheel is done, and I'm definitely not going to rush anything. I've learned a very hard lesson years ago, many times over and over again, especially right at the end of a project. Don't get ants in your pants. Every one of these restorations and projects, right at the end, you want to let's get it done, let's get it done, let's get it. And then if you make a little mistake or you compromise something, not worth it. And as I've said before, the weather's warming up a little bit every day. We are in the spring of the year. Pretty soon we're going to see some flowers or some grass or something. And one thing both Karen and I enjoy every morning when we're having our coffee and breakfast, we have a woodpecker that comes see us. Every morning now he comes, a red-headed woodpecker. He is really a load of laughs to watch. He's a big bird. Boy, and as this project has come piece by piece, bolt by bolt, this has really been a great winter. It's been a winter to remember. So let me take full advantage of the fact that it is supposed to warm up later today. It's cold right now, as you can imagine. It's been cold up till about noon, and then it kind of gets nice. But I hope I can get that wheel done today. Well, and it's the time of year that every day is just different. Every day is special. So this is funny, I thought I'd share this. Miles was here yesterday helping us, and we were moving some stuff around in the garden. And he went to pick the duck up, and I said, uh-oh, poor duck. There's a job for J.B. Weld. And as soon as I finish Glenn's project, it'll be time to put the workbench away and get the lawnmower out. What a great time of the year. I'm going to miss the taste of this coffee. In the summer, it just doesn't taste the same. Instead of a woodpecker this morning, I have my usual friends. Anyway, it's time to get working. Come on, birds. Get me motivated. Okay, this is the last project. Oh, look, it's on the television here. Can't make that stuff up. The last project that we're going to take on for this, well, unless we have an emergency in the ditch problem, which I hope we don't. We got the last parts of the wheels, the wheel assembly, the sprocket, and the big one, Glenn's tank, to finish that up. It's certainly not a big deal, and he's got a fairing, and then that's going to end our painting season. We have some tires to change. I always try to make this can try to get a plan going early in the morning like this. But the biggest thing is the wheel. And I've got a day of wiring up lights and switches and different things like that. But there's one big job left, and that is to buff out that wheel, the rear wheel. Now, just to be really clear, the wheel, 99% of the people in the world would be totally happy with that finish. I understand that, but I'm looking for pushing this. I want this to be every bit the best I can make it. And now, the final thing on this is the sanding with 2500 paper, and it's going to get all buffed by hand. This is so many complex shapes here, and I know many people that come to the shop look at this and they say, "Why, you just put it on a motorcycle, it's going to be perfect," or whatever. I don't feel that way. I'm always trying to make it a little bit better. Now, I'm starting with good old Mirka 2500. Some soapy water with a few drops of Dawn. This whole job is going to be a labor of love. I don't care if it takes all day. Because once the bike is assembled, like the front wheel that's on the bike is buffed out, it's done forever. And then touching it up once in a while, wiping it down, waxing it, it's a joy. First thing I do is cut up a bunch of sandpaper into small pieces. This whole thing has to be done by hand. If there might be a couple of spots you could use a machine, but it really doesn't matter. One of the skills that I think I've developed over the years because of modeling is sanding and buffing by hand, and right now that serves me really, really well. Because there are a lot of people that's an unknown skill, that's an old school skill. Now, just like the front wheel, I'm going to divide this up into smaller pieces. I know there are some people that just don't agree that this has to be done or should be done, and it's okay. We can still be friends. Just not Facebook friends. Oh my God, I'm telling you. So funny. I really always enjoy this end of it, the final buffing and sanding. Now, you might have noticed one of the things that I did is I on purpose let this sit. This is sitting over a week. I mean, we're in month number 6. About a week away, if Karen has any special honeydews here. I got a lot of the honeydews done the other day. So I'm really free now to do this. And this is what's going to make this, for me, a lot of fun. It's not the fun doing it. It's the fun when it's all done and the motorcycle's all assembled. Sitting out in the yard, and I'm sitting out there with a cup of coffee looking at it and oogling it, and the neighbor comes over and goes, "Help me start my lawnmower." Anyway, it is really, this part of it is a skill. It's like a lost art. And to me, the fact that we can keep it going through YouTube is pretty special. Now, this camera really does have a much better macro lens, or close-up lens. And you can see what I've tried to do, and I'll do one little spot at a time. You know, here's a little flaw in the paint. It's actually a little run. What I need to do with that, I'll get that all flat before we go on to the next step. This is the whole idea of doing this, is to detail it out. And you think, see, I know what a lot of people think. Nobody will see that. Well, yeah, but the problem is I see it. It's always a problem when I see something. And what happens with any paint work, you just get fussier and fussier. You're never satisfied, and at some point, then you stand back and look at it and you're really happy. Okay, because a lot of this gets done by hand, 99%. Here's another little trick. I cut the paper ahead of time into this size square. And what I'll do is I'll work one little area here, take the paper and rotate it. Work another little area. I try to do this in one small area at a time. Rotate it. So actually I'm getting 4 sanding little pads out of it. Then that means the middle is still unused. Then I'll fold it back and then flip it over when I'm done with that. And it not only saves the sandpaper, that you're always cutting on a fresh edge. And I can feel, I know most people that do this, especially the modelers, they can feel it right away. When you do this, and you develop that touch, that feel, whatever it is, you say, oh, there we go, I got it. So I'm doing this one little step at a time. Then I'm going to try the exact same procedure that I used on the front wheel. I'm going to use the FZR product. Get a couple of clean microfibers. And when you start this, it seems like it's going to go forever. And then you look at the clock and it's only 3 or 4 hours to do the whole job. But it's 3 or 4 hours of pretty intense work. But at the end, you've got it for the rest of your life. That's at least the way I look at it anyway. All right, so we have one stripe, one layer, one area of this. Now I'll just go back and check that I haven't missed any little spots. In fact, right away I see one. It's got to be totally flat. Any shiny spot you see, even the smallest shiny spot, you've got to just work it until you don't have any shiny spots. As I'm going around, going around. Right there's one. And it's patience. It just takes a lot of patience to do this. But again, you always have the choice of you just go to a motorcycle mall and pick up one of those $26,000 bikes that somebody else did all this work for you. But then when you go down to where the bikes are all, people are hanging out, everybody knows you bought it, you didn't build it. And as my good friend Andy Lee always says, if you can buy it in a store, the value is a whole lot different than if you do it yourself. And he's right. Andy, you're right. Anyway, I'm ready to start buffing out one little spot of this. So what I just wanted to show one spot, because the rest of it is pretty redundant. And actually, if you watch the video on doing the front wheel, it's not going to be a whole lot different than this. It's the biggest thing to learn from all of this is the patience, to just be patient. Now this is the polish that we used on the front wheel with some good results, really good results on this whole bike. FZR 8065. And a container of this is about, I think, about 40 bucks. But it's enough to do, for me, a lot of product here. And it's not, choice 2 would be the Meguiar's polish. And if you add up how much it is per ounce, it's probably very similar. Now I know hand buffing is something a lot of people don't even want to hear about, let alone do. But it's really not that difficult. And again, I'll do one spot at a time. I've got this whole thing, this whole part of this flat sanded. Brand new microfiber, well, at least brand new out of a washing machine anyway. You don't want to take one that you've just cleaned the bottom of your lawnmower with or something. And you see, this product is really high quality stuff, and I want to show this in real time. I don't want to do one of those camera cut things that they do on TV, and it makes it look like you've painted a whole car in 3 minutes. Again, this is, to me, it's kind of a relaxing part of the job, and it is certainly rewarding. At the end of this, now, just go to a clean spot, wipe it off. Now, a lot of times people can't see the difference right away. They don't see it right away. But if they rub it, oh boy, night and day. Because what you've done here is you've really flattened the surface, and the light is reflecting all in one big, like a diamond ring does. Anyway, let me show this up close without shutting the camera off. Because you saw that. Whoops. Oh, here we are. We're sanded flat. Let's see if we can do this on the macro lens. It's got to be sanded flat. And there's the little part I just did. Now, I don't think, even on a camera, unless you're looking at on a big screen TV, like a high-def TV, you would even be able to see it. This even feels smoother. And now, of course, we have the band to do out here, a band here, then this here, and then the other side of the wheel. So this is going to go on for many hours. But now, as I'm working my way out, I wanted to show some of the little
things that I'm sanding out as I go along. And I'm being really fussy as I go along. Here's a spot here I want the whole thing. This is the whole key to getting this to really shine, to really have that look. It's got to be flat. And the sanding takes way longer than doing the buffing. But once you get this technique down and you get rid of all these little shiny spots, you're home free all. Then the buffing just goes very, very quickly. Even hand buffing. And one of the parts that takes an incredible amount of time, more than you would think, is to get this edge of the rim just right, because it's got a curve in it. So I need to get the sandpaper, and my fingertips are just the right shape. These fat little fingers of mine go right down into that curve. And if you skip this step for some reason, I've noticed when I've walked around the bike, that's one of the first things you see is that edge where the tire meets the rim. And if that looks ugly for some reason, or something's not right there, you pick up on, I don't know why you do, you pick up on it right away. All these little details, there's just no end to the amount of details that go into this. And when you're fussy, the problem is being fussy, the next time you do something, you're even more fussy. And it's like gourmet food, I guess. And then you want everything right. And then you want to be younger again. And then it never ends. Anyway, that's pretty much ready to buff right now. But it's all, so far, everything on this is by hand, and it's worked out great. And the microfiber lets it get down into that groove even better. And it's just like digging a hole. There's no difference. Here's the shovel, and here's a pile of dirt. Dig a hole. But we're making progress. Actually, we're almost half done with one side of the wheel, so that would mean we're about a quarter done. I guess that thing, time flies when you're having fun, huh? But one of the side benefits of this is you'll be nice and strong for the summer, so you can do extra grass mowing and extra yard work on your honey-do list. At least we convinced Karen of that, I think. I don't think so. Anyway, the wheel is really coming out nice. That's just, at this point in time, the biggest thing is to be patient and not be thinking about, oh, let me hurry up and get this done. It's just going to take time. There's no free lunch here. That's the problem. But then once you wipe it down and you see that beautiful flat shine. Now on this side, one of the the trickier places to get is this centerpiece. I want to have this, it's really difficult to get your fingertip down in where that centerpiece is and where these ribs join, just to get that flat sanded. But certainly not as difficult as building a model airplane, that's for sure. Anybody that ever, all my modeling friends know that's the truth. What you do with motorcycles is a piece of cake. It's so easy, but it still has to be done. All of this work. Now I'm just looking at this from the super critical eye under fluorescent lighting, where it shows every little flaw. When I took the front wheel out in the yard the other day, bah, it just sparkles like a diamond. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Now what's really nice about this bike, and it was one of the goals I had, I didn't want it to be a kind of a thing that from 1,000 miles away you would say, oh my God, look at that bike. I never saw one like that before. What I wanted was, the goal I was after was that it would have a lot of subtle little things that as you looked at it closer and closer, you said, ooh, that's just a little bit nicer than stock. Oh, there's something that usually that is not buffed out. It's flat black or something like that. And I think, I won't really know until I bring it up to Dale's Market meetup and see what the guys think, but if any of them agree. But I think it's got that nice compromise that it kind of looks like something the factory could have made, maybe made, and even people that are really knowledgeable about motorcycles, you look at something, you say, did the factory make that, or is that, boy, looks like they should have made that. They could have made it. But it doesn't have that look of, you know, they made a seat out of a tree trunk or an exhaust pipe out of a, I don't know, some PVC pipe or something, I don't know. there's always this stuff that's over the edge. And I'm hoping I've found that nice middle ground where it still looks like the factory might have made that bike. Okay, now this is really tricky to get in there because what I have to do now is bend the sandpaper into 3 or 4 folds. I want to get down into that little valley in there. I mean, we're really getting into the fanatical stuff here, but hey, as long as I'm going to do it. There's some kind of a saying that people say, well, if you're only going to live once, you may as well be a Ferrari instead of a, you know, a Hot Wheels toy or something. Who says these things? Nobody says them. Anyway, I got to do something to keep my mind occupied during these hours of buffing. All right, now, once that's flat sanded like that, and it's convenient enough on a 3-spoke wheel to do 1/3 at a time, 1/3, 1/3. The thing to always keep in mind here, it just takes time. Well, we basically have one side of the rim done now, and boy, that you have to see it in real life. I know this doesn't show, and you certainly don't see the detailing on it, but you can see the reflection, and that's one of the tests, of course. Yeah, that's really coming out nice. Now, the hardest part of this is going to be just the patience to stick with this, and I'll try to get this all done in one day today, of course, but this, even if this took 2 days, I don't care, because it's that finish right there that I want on that whole wheel. Now, as with all of these jobs, the second side of the wheel is going a lot quicker than the first one because I've got the rhythm going. I feel like I got a bongo drum here. Got the rhythm going. Actually, I get excited about seeing this come to fruition, and I guess I get a little more energy than I normally have. And lately, I haven't had that much energy at all. Just ask Karen, she'll tell you. Anyway, we're just taking this. I am really, when you think about it, this is going to be the end of the really difficult jobs. Assembling a bike, there's a couple little things there that they're going to take time to wiring and stuff, but there's no more big hurdles. This is the last big hurdle. You know, and I remember a saying, you know, I'm not a really big football fan, but I remember a saying that they asked one of the coaches what was the biggest thrill in his whole coaching career, and he said it was in the 4th quarter of a Super Bowl when he knew he was going to win, and they just had to run out the clock. And the work I'm doing today, and maybe the next couple of days, week even, we're running out the clock. Now both sides of this are done. Came out very nice. Now the next thing up here, because I know I'm going to see this, is to get this all sanded. And at the same time, once this is done, the legs, I'll do each leg separately, but I'll spend quite a bit of time on this, because this is one of the things you really see. The sprocket only comes out about 1 inch past this, so you really do get to see this. As this part rotates, you do see it. Now this part up here, this is just going to turn into a labor of love, I know it, but I know this is one of the focal points that you're going to see, so I really want to get it flat sanded, and I really want to take my time getting a final buff shine on it, get any dust or dirt that might be in that final coat of clear, any little imperfections, any runs, anything. No shiny spots. By the time we hit this with some of that compound, I don't want to see any shiny spots. Total flat sanded paintwork. And once you have that concept down that it's got to be flat, it's got to be dulled with the 2500. Even better if we had some 3000, but we don't. And one of the key things, again, it made this job go as well as it did. Left plenty of dry time in between coats. Didn't try to do it all in a couple days. And then the clear that went on here, it's been drying at least a week right under a heating vent. So let's hope it's going to buff out. So far, the rim is buffed out great, but I want the whole thing to be perfect. Now, one of the things, the legs take longer than you think they do because it's hard to get your hand in there. Difficult anyway. Nothing's easy. I keep thinking there's going to be some of the things that are going to be really easy. Nothing's easy. It's like living in Alaska. Everything's cold. Anyway, we are really, keep saying it over and over again, but I am really happy the way this job is coming out. Because a lot of times I've spent this much energy and time and effort and then not been happy. That can really happen. Now with all that flat sanded, this will be the critical part, is to get this radius right. And luckily my little fat fingers fit right in there with the rag. This is the part I love, as that shine just comes up beautifully. There's something about doing a part by hand. You don't leave any stone unturned. If you buff the hood of a car with a big buffer, you may miss a spot. If you have a part that you're doing under fluorescent lights like this, it's a good chance you're not going to miss anything. And that paint really does, if you can see it in real time, that paint is coming right up. Right up. Well, this side really buffed out nice. That's about as good as I'm going to be able to make it. Time to do the other side, and then we're on the home stretch here to having this ready to go. And then we'll be ready to do the final assembly and get this on the bike. Now this side of the wheel is a lot more detailed, a lot more complicated. That's why I've saved it for last. I want to get in all the nooks and crannies, and of course I've just got to bide my time here. And if there was some easy way, I'd get a mouse to do it, but you know, it's not going to happen. And once you realize it's not going to happen, and I put so much time into this area, I don't want to, at the end of this, not have it that I'm not happy with it. I don't really care if other people are not happy with it. It's quite okay, but my goal here is to have this bike forever. Obviously never going to trade it in, sell it, eBay it. And the only way somebody's going to get this is when I pass on to my heavenly reward. Some lucky guy is going to come over and probably get it for $500. We don't like to think about that right now. We got time to spend on this, and once I get this hub and the spokes all flat sanded out, and it's just going to be time. And I've resigned myself to the fact that this would have been a day I probably could have gotten a ride in if I split this up into two things, but I just got so excited about getting it done and seeing it done, and well, that's the kind of information you share with people, because that's how we all are. Anybody that's passionate about this knows that feeling of, I just want to get it done, I want to see it on a bike. Everybody knows that. You can see how much more work. This is just going to be labor intensive to get in all these areas, because what has to happen? Everything has to be flat dull before we get out that 4C compound and start banging on it. Now see, here's a shiny spot up here. This is what you have to address. Otherwise these things never come out as good as they could. That's all. That whole thing has got to be flat sanded before I get to the compound. Final step on all of this is always all the little corners and edges. These edges where this is a particular part where the spokes join the rim. You really have to spend some extra time in there. A lot of it I can do on that wheel balancer, but at the end I've got to get in these corners, and it's a lot easier to do it like this. You've got to be able to put some weight down on it. Now I'm almost done with this, and this consumed not the better part of a day, a whole day. But we are one day closer to having this all put together now, that's for sure. I've got to do the final cleanup on this. Put a coat of flitz on it, just for protection. And then I'm ready. I'm ready for the hot tub here. For the flitz hot tub. But anyway, there's a lot of good information on this. It's a kind of a lost skill of working on things, buffing them out by hand. It's not something that a lot of people even have ever done. But in a case like this, there's really no other way I know to get this level of quality in all the nooks and crannies and angles and edges, and it just isn't. I know what you're saying. There must be a mouse with compound on his feet or something that we can do this with. Well, if you find them, send them over here. That's all I can say. But we are coming up on having this nice and clean. And in the end, I've used up about 20 microfibers, about 10 sheets of sandpaper, a whole afternoon, but I've got something now. I've got it basically for the rest of my life. And we're never quite sure how long that's going to be, that's for sure. Well, I don't know how much better. I don't know, I looked at Motorcycle Mall at the real expensive motorcycles that have really nice finishes on them. I didn't see anything better than that. Anyway, this has been a long day. This has been a lot of work. You know what? I think it's going to be worth it. And in the next couple days, maybe week, we're going to have this bike finished and ready to ride. And that's... I'm waiting, believe me. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Some good information you can share. And thanks for watching.